Have you ever been told to get good when asking for help for a game? You have? Great! Who did you hire to dropkick them? Asking for me. Accessibility in video games is always a good thing. It allows for more people to enjoy games, it allows for companies to earn more money from said games, everyone wins. It's especially awesome to see stuff like color correction done for people who can't see color, and I don't mean in regards to race, due to a pre-existing condition such as deuteranopia, I hope I pronounced that right, if I didn't I'm sorry, which causes people with it to have trouble distinguishing between shades of green and red. There are also special controllers from PlayStation and Xbox that allow for physically handicapped people to enjoy video games on their respective platforms. Nintendo, why haven't you done this yet? Yet, for whatever reason, people have been against it for one specific type of game. Souls-like games, and thus the Soulsborne games that inspired them from famed developer FromSoft. So the biggest argument that I've seen about this is in regards to protecting the artist's vision, which I can understand, but only if they use that for more than just these games, and if they didn't only bring it up when it came to these games specifically. I wasn't reading the script while doing this, you're imagining. I have unfortunately also heard that some people use this argument when it comes to a game that, say, has a 10,000-year-old deity portrayed as a 4-year-old girl, and I will not be held responsible if I encounter someone that's into that shit in real life. There are a plethora of examples of corporate meddling that are way more important to use this argument for. Most notably, in my honest opinion, with EA. Games like Mass Effect Andromeda, where the devs were forced to use an engine that wasn't made for that type of game. Brutal Legend, which already had meddling issues from Activision, but when EA got the publishing rights, Double Fine, the developers of the game, had been unable to release a fully completed patch to fix the PS3 version of the game, because the game didn't make as much money as EA would want in order to see it as justified. Again, the patch was already finished, and EA still wouldn't do it. Then we got Capcom. Now we all know that X5 was supposed to be the last Mega Man X game before Capcom went money and had X6 made behind his back, but then there's this that I didn't know about and we'll go over real quick. Mega Man Zero 3 was supposed to be the last one of the Zero series. Inta Creates and Keiji Inafune wanted to make Mega Man Zero 1.5, which would bridge the first two games together. But execs wanted a fourth entry rather than a side game, so they made For the Way It Is, with a very explicitly obvious ending that I personally couldn't make out when I was younger because I don't know why, to ensure that they wouldn't have to make a Mega Man Zero 5 and thus be able to make ZX. We did manage to get 1.5 in the form of a one-shot comic and Mega Man Zero timelines, so that at least is pretty neat. All of that, and especially the case with Mega Man, is the literal textbook definition of not protecting the artist's vision, and for some reason no one ever uses the term for that sort of thing. But if there are people that do use it for that, either I haven't seen it or they just in general aren't getting that much attention. I could go on and on about all sorts of other examples of corporate meddling in gaming, but the point of this video is to highlight the weird hatred people have regarding the concept of accessibility options in difficult games, namely Soulsborne and Souls-like games. Anyway, one subcategory of accessibility options are difficulty options, a feature that has been in a thing in video games for decades. Revenge of Shinobi on the Sega Genesis, Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 on the Nintendo DS, Doom 1993 on every piece of hardware imaginable, Mega Man 2 on the NES, and then we got games with more varied difficulty options such as Shadow of the Tomb Raider, also all modern platforms except for the Nintendo, Persona 4, I'm gonna stop mentioning all the platforms, it's tiring, Hades, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. That last one is especially interesting because the Xenoblade games are absolutely massive in scope and in size with the world you explore, and yet FromSoft can't seem to figure out how to set up that sort of thing. Now mind you, I completely understand that implementing difficulty options is not easy to do, but so many games have done this fine, from indie hits like Celeste to big AAA hits like Doom the Dark Ages, that it makes me wonder, like I said earlier, why FromSoft can't seem to make that happen at all. Do they actually not know how to do so? Now, it could be argued that the point of the game is the difficulty. Sure, but there are games with that very point that still give an option. The biggest examples to me of that are Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. DMC 1 and Bayonetta 1, I haven't played Bayonetta 2 yet, both have an easy setting called Easy Automatic Mode, which allows the players to have an easier time dealing with enemies and can pull off combos without much issue. In DMC 1 though, using it locks you out of other difficulty options on that specific save file, which I personally don't like because I like having an option, but I still feel it's a fair trade-off. Future DMC games have since been a bit fairer about what difficulties you choose, and nobody seemed to mind that. Hell, Ninja Gaiden 4, the recently released entry in the Ninja Gaiden series, has accessibility options as well, and that series is notorious for being hard as well. Granted, it just came out, so people are going to be weirdos about it anyway, but they're usually people who have never played a Ninja Gaiden game and are exploiting the ignorance and anger of people weirdly mad about it for clout and video watch time. What, you listen to this bozo? This guy can't even name what type Cleffa is without looking it up. I bet his beard is from a cardboard box he found in the dumpster. Then we have the argument that Souls-like games should be exempt from it. Okay. These games say differently, though. Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn is a Souls-like game that has a very unique and interesting premise. It also has difficulty settings. I should note there is a catch though, as if you choose easy mode, you'll be locked out of earning achievements. Okay. Honestly, old me would have been upset about this like I was with the 2011 Sonic CD remaster, which locked you out of those when you play as Tails, but these days, again, I think it's a fair trade-off. Now, Flintlock does advertise itself as a Souls-like. Keyword light. But not only do games like Another Crab's Treasure and the Star Wars Jedi series have similar difficulty options and yet are advertised and considered as Soulslikes, but when looking up if Soulslike is an actual thing, I found one article listing certain games that match the description of it, along with a few posts across social media that show confusion about it. You know what, I'm feeling adventurous today. Let's check the second page for shits and giggles. Google, are you f***ing kidding me? So, the problems that arise with the actual results being hidden on the second page of Google search results, which nobody ever checks aside, as I think that's a can of worms that, like, I am not qualified enough to open right now. It's good to see this, honestly. How come freaking Wikipedia doesn't have this listed like that at the time of this recording, though? Yeah, so when checking the Wikipedia article for Souls-like as a subgenre at the time of this recording, it doesn't say anything about Souls-like being a thing, which, by the way, doesn't have its own article either, and even lists the aforementioned Another Crab's Treasure as a Souls-like, despite it having accessibility and difficulty options. Though it does list Flintlock and Mortal Shell as action role-playing, which leads me to believe that Souls-like, while seemingly not a new concept, is not as accepted a term in gaming as a whole just yet. As far as I'm concerned, though, I'd much prefer to play Souls-like games than I would Soulslike and even the Soulsborne games from FromSoft, solely because it actually has difficulty options. I do find it weird, though, that that's all it took to create a new subgenre. It'd be like calling Streets of Rage a beat-em-up light or Metroid Dread an action-adventure light, but only after they added easy mode via an update. And yeah, Metroid games like Fusion and Dread are listed as action-adventure, even though Metroid as a whole helped establish the Metroidvania subgenre that Castlevania Symphony of the Night created by taking elements from Metroid games, but other Castlevania games are still called Metroidvania as the Vania in their title is in the sub. Brain go bang! The fact that I managed to do that in one breath. How the hell do rappers do it? Now, there is an argument that I think is still pretty valid despite my issues with it, that if it's too hard for you, take some time to get good. Well, actually, they don't say it in a negative way in regards to that for once. Or to take a break. Yeah, about that. People, namely adults, I guess you could say, like me, don't usually have the time to do that these days. A lot of our time is taken up by work, school, social gatherings with friends, sleep, eating, and so on and so forth, that people can't always make time for getting better at the game, and they may be stuck taking too long of a break because life gets in the way that much. It could also be argued that I'm just making this video for myself, but I'm honestly not. I want more people to be able to play and enjoy video games, and from what I've seen from playthroughs by Jacksepticeye, the Soulsborne games do clearly have a lot of effort put into them already. It'd just be so awesome if even more people could enjoy them. But if I had to appease people who don't actually give a shit and just want to be mad for the sake of being mad, I may have a history of anger management problems that I've since been working on in a healthy manner, but I have played difficult games before and got through them. Such as Sonic Superstars, no I'm not kidding, the Final Horizon update for Sonic Frontiers before Sega nerfed it into Oblivion, both parts of the Ancient Gods DLC in Doom Eternal, which is saying something given that it's somehow a big challenge even on easy mode. I wish I was kidding, though I have no idea if they nerfed that too, as it has been a hot minute since I played that. And Hollow Knight especially are games I've played, though I will admit Hollow Knight is the only one of these I've not yet beaten, but only because I admittedly took so long of a break that I kind of forgot most of it and just opted to start over. I also felt I got the Monarch wings too soon, as doing so made a side quest much harder for me, which multiple guides even recommend I do this side quest first. By the way, Berta crushing on the knight, so f***ing adorable. I love this shit dearly and I don't really know anything about it. I also plan to do a video on Bloodborne despite some rough history with that game regarding a piece of shit, fuck jackass, fucking fuckface ex-friend of mine. Yeah, this is gonna take a while. Sorry. So all of this to really say, at the end of the day, as I said before, I just want more people to be able to enjoy these games, and games in general. Like, I genuinely do not understand why people seem to want to gatekeep these games from other people. And realistically, even if they're not intending to, which I feel like that's a single-digit percentage, really, that's what they're doing in the end. They are gatekeeping these games from other people, preventing them from being able to enjoy them. But why? Why would you want your game to not be enjoyed by more people? Why would you not want to make more money by making the game more accessible to more people? And on top of all that, why the hell did someone call me oppressive for saying that? If none of this is really getting to you though, consider the following. Accessibility options and difficulty options are just that, options. You don't need to use them, they're there if you want to, but if you don't want to, and if you don't feel a need, then you don't need to. It ain't like microtransactions where the game, whether it be mobile games, sports games, etc. I think Call of Duty has microtransactions actually, I don't know. Where the game that has them is designed to eventually force you into paying them for, progress. It's just there for people to use if they feel a need to. And if you don't feel a need to, regardless of whether or not you're being stubborn, and also obviously if you don't want to, then again, you don't need to use them. It's that simple really. Seriously, you're acting like those idiots that whine about a gay romancing side story in a game that you have to go so out of your way to make that happen, or like that guy who complained about pride flags in Celeste even though they're barely noticeable in the first place, and when told he doesn't need to look at them in the game, he tried to play the victim, whining that he, quote, has to. Quit being a bitch.